Welcome to the Two Bros in a Budget channel. Today we're going to be unlocking the secrets to building a credit score from ground zero. Because as we know, a credit score is such a key factor to being able to afford things later on down the line.
Stop wasting money on that dumb shit and instead put it in investment. I know it's tempting. You'll spend it and be broke again.
All right, so the first stop, secure cards. We have a ton of videos on our channel about credit cards in general, and we have at least one video on secure cards. But secure cards are a very cool concept where basically when you're starting out trying to build your credit, you give the bank a deposit of say $500. And the bank will then give you a $500 credit limit. So secure cards, you're giving them the money up front, so they know worst case scenario, they get their money back.
Yeah.
And then you can reuse that revolving credit over and over and over again. And then typically after a year, which will go to the next step, you'll be able to upgrade from a secure card and you'll get your deposit back.
So these cards are available a lot of places now. Some of them require a minimum limit, like say $200 or something like that. So that is something to keep in mind. But again, practice good credit building habits like paying it off consistently, at least by the end of the month, and building a strong credit history, because that's how you make that graduation to an unsecured card. This isn't for big purchases. This is for small everyday purchases that you can afford to pay off quickly. And staying on the topic of credit cards, there's another method that you may have heard of, like the Authorized User method. This is simply where you become an authorized user on someone else's credit card. Like, let's say, you have a parent or a sibling or maybe a friend if you really trust them. Now, keep in mind, guys, this needs to be someone that has good credit building habits themselves.
Sure.
Don't latch on to someone who has bad habits, because now it's just going to hurt you. But now that you're an authorized user, their good credit history helps apply to yours and helps build your credit over time. So this is why it's so important to make sure that both you and the person that you're trying to become an authorized user with understand who's at risk and what effects it's going to have on both of you.
Personally, my personal opinion, I'll go ahead and frame it out there. Shouldn't matter too much to you, but just me personally, I'm not a huge fan of this strategy.
Yeah.
I just think there's so many things that can go wrong. You're trying from the first part, trying to figure out credit scores and credit cards, and now you're at risk of tearing someone else's down.
Yeah.
Don't love that idea. A lot of time parents will do that for people when they can't get a credit card because they don't have an income and all of that. They don't have a credit score yet. But now with secure cards, it's a little bit easier. You can do your own thing.
Yeah.
And doing it with a friend, I just think is a terrible idea.
Yeah, that's super risky.
It's asking for disaster.
Yeah, playing with fire.
Right. You're not good. You might tear theirs down. And maybe they're not good. They might tear yours down. So it's just a bad idea all around in that case. It can be a great strategy. It can help a lot of people. But I personally am not the biggest fan of that.
Yeah.
Just want to throw it out there.
You're kind of, frankly, just increasing the number of people who can get screwed up and screw up, kind of.
Right.
So that is something that you have to be super cautious about. You have to be very, have this planned out very well. A lot of times, sometimes when I hear the parents doing it, they won't even let their kids spend it. They're like, you're going to be an authorized user, but you're not going to use this card. You understand me?
They just throw it in a drawer so they can build their credit, but no effect.
So that is something that you do need to kind of keep in mind, that you can really mess someone up and they can really mess you up, of course, but there's a lot of weight in realizing that, this isn't just all on you anymore. You're affecting somebody else.
And we harped on that. That was a little lengthy, but it's a very big deal.
Yeah.
It really is. And number 3, a credit builder loan. So a credit builder loan isn't as common as a secure card, and it's definitely not as common as a normal credit card. But what it is basically you apply for this loan. Say you apply for a $1,000 credit builder loan, and then you go and make $50 payments. Once those payments reach that $1,000 that you applied for, they will then give you that $1,000 as the loan. It sounds a little weird, right?
Yeah.
Like normally when you apply for a loan, it's because you don't have the money. So you're applying to get the loan, and they give you the money up front. This case, it drastically mitigates the risk for the bank. Honestly, it's only a win-win for them because they don't have a risk of loaning you money and not getting paid back. You pay them until it's full, and then they give you basically your own money back, plus they get the interest.
Yeah.
But this can be a tool to build your credit.
Yeah. So like Ryan says, the bank really doesn't assume any risk here, because let's say you only get halfway done with paying this. They never paid you anything anyway, so you just lost your payments right there.
Yeah, that's true.
Now, I know this may turn a lot of people off because they're like, well, if I apply for a loan, I want that money up front. I don't want it at the end. Because, you will lose your money in that little bit of interest you also paid, because that's why they kind of do it, to make a little bit of money still. But this is a great tool, because this loan isn't about getting funds for some purchase you need. This is simply about building credit. That's what this loan was designed for. It's not so you can access a lot of funds suddenly. All right, and moving on, this next one, I guess, really isn't kind of a system in order to build credit. It's more so just good practices. And that is really harping on monitoring your credit utilization. Now, we want to keep this roughly below 30%. And what credit utilization is essentially is how much of your credit limit you're using. So let's say you have a $1,000 limit and you're carrying a balance of $750, well, you take that and divide it. So you're using 75% of your limit. So you have 75% utilization, which is not good.
Yeah.
We're saying you want to stay at or below 30%. And of course, guys, 0 is always best. We always would recommend you paying off the loan in full, but at least below 30%. That's where it's doing the least amount of damage to your credit score.
Yeah, and even if you have a 5 or 10 or 15% utilization, it will slowly hurt your credit score because you're still using the card and it's staying over that month period. You're not paying it off. That's what that utilization is when they check it, do you have a balance? And you do, and then it calculates that percentage.
Yeah.
So it can still hurt it, but once you cross 30%, that's where it kind of does throw up a bigger red flag, saying that they're using almost a third of their balance over that month period multiple times in this case, let's say. And then they're like, all right, your score will drop a little bit harder. You're a little bit more of a risk. So they don't want that. And number 5, this is also more of a good habit to build than a actual loan or credit card. And it's to make small payments. Nope, you're not making payments. And it's to make small purchases and swift payments.
Yeah.
So what this basically we're saying is you want to use credit cards on your everyday purchases.
Yeah.
You're going to the grocery store, you pay for that. You're going to get your car filled up with gas, you're paying for that. You're going to get fast food, you're paying for that.
Yeah.
You're not going appliance shopping and furniture shopping and house shopping. You're not buying cars with credit cards.
No.
These are too big of purchases.
Yeah.
It's for everyday, normal, small purchases that you'll pay swiftly. So pay pretty much right away.
Yeah.
Some people pay it every single day. Some people pay it weekly. Some people pay it monthly. As long as it's at least once a month is the best practice. But if you want to be even better, weekly is a great option. So if you forget 1 week, at least you have the other 3 to pay it off. You don't miss your payments. You don't build up that utilization.
Yeah. So following tip number 5 right here really helps with tip number 4. Because if you're paying this off, frequently or as frequently as you can, your utilization is naturally never going to get that high because you're constantly paying it off. But like Ryan said, everyday purchases, guys. This isn't for the big stuff. So just keep that in mind. Those last little tidbits there, are just more so general practices that everyone should practice, whether you have good credit or bad credit. I mean, we still monitor our utilization and are practicing good credit building habits. But those first 3 options were really avenues in which you can take to build credit kind of from nothing. But let's say you already have a credit card or something, you don't really want to do any of these secure cards or loans. Really, the only way to really help build your credit is pay it off and practice good habits like tip 4 and 5.
Exactly. And we have 2 quick bonus tips, I should say. And one, we just posted a video on the big difference between personal loans and credit cards. Check that video out if you're making a big purchase or you can't decide, is this a good situation to use a credit card or a good situation to use a personal loan? Definitely check that video out. And tip number 2 is there's also a lot of these banks and people are getting creative, just like the credit builder loan, but debit cards sometimes will have a credit side to them.
So there are little things like that. The first few we kind of mentioned were the somewhat most common avenues. Number 1 probably being the secured card. So keep in mind all the kind of caveats we gave to these, like how number 2, you really got to be cautious about hurting someone else and all this. So all these have their little caveats and everything, but just in general, good practices and being responsible, fully understanding what you're getting yourself into. Obviously, we preach that for just about everything in finance.
Yeah, and if you've ever used a secure card or a credit builder loan or any of these we've talked about, let us know in the comments. You could maybe someone else has had the same situation, looked up, found this video, and they're looking for answers, and maybe your comments help them. Hey, you really liked whatever, the Discover secure card. That was your favorite. Maybe that's exactly what they need. Help someone else out by just leaving a comment. Let them know, hey, I've used the secure loan or I've used the credit bill or the Built MasterCard, any of those, and maybe you could help someone else. So we look forward to those comments, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.
Yeah, so we appreciate you guys tuning in. See you guys next week.
Stop wasting money on that dumb shit and instead put it in investment. I know it's tempting. You'll spend it and be broke again.